Welcome to Bloomin' Astrology. My name's Bloomin', and this is your first astrology lesson from an alternative point of view. A lot of people watch astrology on YouTube and they learn a certain way of reading the planets and the signs, and a lot of these are very traditional and have been going on for many years. But there's one aspect of the way that people are teaching astrology that I find to be just a little bit wrong. I learned astrology 30 years ago, and I was working as an astrologer and tarot reader during the 1990s. And over the time that I've been studying it, because all astrologers are always studying astrology, we look most days, or every day really, at Ephemeris, which is the book that holds all the planets and what signs and degrees of signs they're in at the moment. It doesn't have to be a book for me because I'm old, it's a book, but you can also find an ephemeris online. If you go to Astrodensed or astro.com and look for ephemeris, EPHEM for Mary, ephemeris, ERIS. And that tells you the daily planetary positions. Now, when I read a chart and I look at daily planetary positions, I look at the outer planets. The outer planets are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Then I look at the next two, Jupiter and Saturn. And I tend not to worry too much about the inner planets, the personal planets, because they're personal and they are the ones that every individual needs to know. If you need to know your own chart and what your personal planets are. But when we look at what's happening throughout the world or throughout a population or a community, we need to look at the outer planets. At the moment, we have Uranus in Taurus, Neptune's in Pisces, Pluto is in Capricorn. Now, these three planets have been dancing around for the last few years and have been quite responsible for the strange things that have been happening to us as a globe, as a population of the whole Earth. The way I read the planets in signs is a little bit different to the way other astrologers read them. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. For me, when I talk about the outer planets and what sign they're in, I look at the fact that everyone who has a personal planet in that sign that the outer planet is in is going to be affected. So you'll get a large proportion of the world will be affected by Neptune, a larger proportion of the world will be affected by Uranus. A larger proportion of the world will be affected by Pluto. But the types of people that are going to be affected are the ones who have signs, sun signs or moon signs or angles in the same sign that the outer planet is in. So at the moment, Neptune is in Pisces. So Neptune, which is the planet of fogginess and misconceptions, misty thinking and fantasies and confusion, that's the planet Neptune, is going to be most strongly affecting people with Pisces personal planets. So therefore, people who are already Piscean will become even more confused, even more fantastical in their thinking, even more exiled from reality. Maybe even a little deceitful, or their artistic and creative abilities will be even more beautiful than they've ever been before. And I think we can see this in the world where a lot of people have grasped the rainbow movement and the multiple genders and the fantasies of being whatever you want to be. I think this is a result of Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune in Pisces is just like a double whammy of fantastical thinking. Unicorns and angels, pink and purple, sparkles and glitter. But there can be also a downside, that if Neptune in Pisces is too fantastical and not grounded in reality, and so when it moves out of Pisces in the next couple of years into Aries, some of those people may fall a little bit too fast and hit the ground, depending on how much grounding they've already got in their chart. Then we've got Pluto in Capricorn. So all the Capricornian people are experiencing the deep Pluto transits. So anyone who has a tendency to be in authority or in high up in business is experiencing these Pluto, this transformation, this extreme pulling out of the Capricorn type of personality, so they can become too authoritarian, because Pluto really digs in and pulls the extremities out. But they can also be on the other end of that scale and become extremely responsible and become good leaders and become very serious leaders. We can see a lot of that happening in the world in the last couple of years. We have some of those leaders being really, really extremist, and some leaders are showing great restraint and responsibility. But this also will change very soon next year when Pluto comes out into Aquarius. And then any of the leaders who have behaved badly under their Pluto transit may start to get a payback once Pluto goes to Aquarius. But the good leaders will retain their authority and respect that they've earned over the last couple of years. Then we go back to Uranus. Uranus has been in Taurus for this last few years. So Uranus is a very disruptive planet, and it causes lots of sudden, unexplained disruptions in people's lives. I often call it the truth planet because I think it reveals things to people, because it's just so blunt. It just goes, oh, right, here's some truth. Now I'm moving on. Or here's a change in your life, and no explanation. Now I'm moving on. Now, because Uranus is in Taurus, all the people who are Taurians or have Taurus, a higher amount of Taurus in their charts, they will experience the most of the disruptions in their lives. Because Taurus is a fixed sign, people with Taurian traits can be really resistant to change. So Uranus is going to really upset some Taurians, because too much change can happen, and Taurians don't like that. So the kind of negative side of Uranus in Taurus is a deep insecurity and anxiety of the Taurian people. They're frightened and scared, and they don't understand what's going on for them. If they can pull themselves into a more secure place, they can embrace the Uranus transit and embrace the changes and try and be maybe even, I'm just thinking now, there's a lot of lots and lots of protests and things have gone on in the last couple of years. And that's one way that Taurian energy can express itself when it's transited by Uranus. It's kind of revolutionary. So a lot of people who would never usually protest at all have gone out to big protests in huge crowds all over the world. And they're just expressing the Uranian energy, maybe for the first time, because Taurians don't usually like that kind of thing. They don't like getting off their farm or getting out of their cozy house, getting out of the garden. I've got a Taurus moon. I love being in the garden. So you can see how that has shown itself across the world as Uranus moves through Taurus. Now, Uranus will be in Taurus still till 2025, I think. So there's still a lot of disruption to go on. A lot of disruption in the Taurian side of life. Food disruptions, money disruptions, agriculture disruptions, comfort disruptions. But there can be changes for the good as well. They may not have to be scary changes. We won't know until Uranus has passed through Taurus and goes into Gemini, and then it starts doing its little irritating work on the people with Gemini planets. Okay, so that's my first little talk about the outer planets. And I will get back to you again with some more in a short time.